Good evening, and welcome to another Attire seminar. My name is Ralph Gorland. This seminar is brought to you by HUMA, the Institute for Humanities in Africa at the University of Cape Town. Our guest here today is Lethu Tshabangu, who is the founder and with his wife, Nolu, of Ukamba Beer Works. And I've known Lethu for several years. I'll tell you a little bit about how we met. And we're going to be having a few tastes of ingredients, a few tastes of beer, and we're going to talk through some of the flagship brews that Lethu has produced, talk a bit about Lethu's life story, and yeah, thank you for joining us. This is my living room, myself and my partner Dara. And this is my cat, Gimpy, who is really loving being on Lethu's lap. So, welcome. So, Lethu, thank you very much. Yeah, thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for calling me.
Yeah. So we met originally about 9 years ago, actually across the road, just by coincidence. Our mutual friend Richard lives across the street. And at that point, you were working at a bar at the waterfront, doing home brewing, and now, 9 years later, you've got your own bar and your own brewery at the waterfront. A very impressive space with big brewing machines that the maker's landing at the waterfront. And yeah, how did you? Well, that's a big question. How did you come to go from there to here? But maybe starting earlier. When did you first think that you were going to become a brewer, or when did you start getting interested in beer? Perhaps you could start there.
Thank you, the viewers, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. And when I was working at the bar in Waterfront, it was a time. At first, I was trying to learn about beer so that I can explain to people who come to the bar at the time, because I also didn't know much. It will also confuse me. It always confuse me at the time when people ask me, like, what's the difference between a lager and a stout? What's a pale ale? What's the difference between a pale ale and an IPA? So I would go to the internet after work all the time and try to research all these things. And I found that there is so much to learn. Like beer, as we know it, I always knew beer as one thing, like a lager. And then only to realize that we can have like hundreds and hundreds of beer styles, and they are all made different from all over these countries. They have all these rich stories and stuff like that, and it was so fascinating for me. And also that time, I was lucky enough to meet a guy called Maris Lethu, who used to manage beer house. It was the time that there was beer house in Cape Town, this bar with, I think that time they used to say they have 99 different beers on tap or something like that. And it was fascinating, and I wanted to taste all of them. And at that time, all those learnings, of the lessons, plus the fact that I was new in Cape Town, I didn't have friends, and I started making friends in the beer industry, and also started learning a lot of how to sell the beer. And one of the most interesting things was now to understand how just a beer label also could sell a beer, you know, and the stories just on the outside, and what people wanted. These people are coming from all over the world. Because usually tourists that came to our bar and they wanted to taste the African beer. So it was always fascinating, and that was the time that I was like, wow, there is a bit of a gap somewhere for me to also tell my own story through beer.
So tell your stories through beer, and respond to this expectation that visitors might have that there would be an African beer served in Africa, but the majority of beers that were available were more or less straight beers from the European tradition. Yeah,
they were. And the other thing, I met a guy from Australia. We spoke about beer and fermentation in general, and he was talking of how important fermentation has been to human civilization, how societies started settling into basic community now they needed to grow crops and wait for them and harvest, and then they can make the beer. And through fermentation, things like medicine came out. Then Texas started being introduced, and then business now and stuff like that. So fermentation gave contributed a lot to like the society as it is right now. And I wanted to tell the African part of that story because it's always been missing. Like we did ferment as well, we did make beer, we did move from being nomadic hunters to being community, but that part of our story is not really told. It's a bit grayish, and I'm obsessed with telling a story.
Yeah, I've got a friend who believes that the pyramids were built with were the people who built the pyramids were paid in beer. That was one of the taxes.
Yes, that's many historians say that. I believe that too.
There's a question about putting the microphone closer, so I think I'm gonna increase the sensitivity, and then I think if we both maybe if you sit forward a little bit,
so
disturb Gimpy.
Louder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's that for our audience there, Alison? Have you does that improve things at all?
Yeah, I think a little bit. I can hear you super clearly, Ralph. It's more Lethu, I can't hear you super clearly. I think you're leaning back maybe.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, perfect. Loud and clear.
Okay, we'll keep up the there you go. Yeah. Okay, we're live. We're learning as we go.
Yeah.
So telling stories through beer. And so in fact you've had a number of beers that have a particular concept to them.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us about the first significant beer of yours, which was called The Pursuit of Hoppiness?
The Pursuit of Hoppiness. That's our black IPA. So when I got into the industry, started selling commercially, everyone who was starting will start with a light beer, on something easy, whether it's a lager or a blonde ale or a vice beer or something that easy drinking, that's much more approachable. But there was so many of those beers in the market, and I wanted something different. I wanted to come into the game with something that may not be approachable, but whoever has it will talk about it. So I made a black IPA, which was stronger, like 6.5% ABV, alcohol by volume, and very hoppy, quite on the bitter side, but a beautiful beer. And the first place that stocked it was Hello Sailor in Observatory.
Just down the road.
Just down the road, and they didn't believe it was gonna sell. So I remember after delivering it in the morning, I called my friends and we went to have drinks later in the evening at the same place, and we drank it all. And then the next morning they ordered 2 more cases.
Yeah.
That's how I got it into spaces everywhere where I was going. I would do that, then go back to buy it or go back to coerce my friends.
Yeah.
Guilt trip them, make them buy it, do whatever I have to.
Yeah. So you've had a very intense focus on succeeding within this area.
Yes, I was, and also with the name Pursuit of Happiness, it was so personal because it was a time when I was coming from a bit of a tough personal time, and I used to write things I taken from the movie that was written about Chris Gardner, The Pursuit of Happiness, and he always wrote it in a diary, and every time say, this stage of my life is called this stage of my life is this. So when I started brewing, I put in my diary that this stage of my life is called Pursuit of Happiness. So I was falling in love with hops and all this something. Yeah. So I decided to call the beer that.
And in fact, we have some hops.
Yeah.
We have some hops here. They look like little pellets because the actual hop is a plant. Yeah. But these are little pellets that you can smell.
Actual hop is it's like a vine. The tree is like a vine, and then it produces these greenish flowers, and those basically, if have defined beer over the probably last 100 or so years. Yeah, since the discovery of hops, and they are good. They preserve the beer, the bitterness and the flavor and the aroma. Yeah, basically. Yeah.
And the story with the IPA is that that the British were sending beer to India on a long sea voyage, and they added extra hops because it's a preservative.
Yes.
In order to preserve the beer.
Yeah.
And at first it was an unusually strong taste for a beer, and it was just through necessity.
Yeah.
But then people really liked this really strong taste.
Yeah.
And then it became one of the notable beers is an IPA, and people specifically go for that strong taste.
Yeah, it's quite an acquired taste. I remember the first time I had an IPA. I can't remember which it was, from one of the local breweries. I had to spit it out. It was too bitter for me. I felt like I was drinking some kind of medicine, something. It was so bitter. I didn't even understand why people were drinking that.
Yeah.
But after some time, I fell so much in love with it.
Yeah.
You know, that bitterness, the flavors, the hops, it's amazing. Yeah.
And specifically a black IPA.
Yeah. So the black IPA, I met a guy from Scotland. He had a bottle of a black IPA from the USA Stone Brewery, which is called the Sublimely Self-Righteous IPA. So that's the first thing that caught me was the name. These guys had to go all the way to name a beer like this. So I drank it. It was almost undrinkable. It was 9% alcohol by volume, probably 150 IBUs. It was super bitter, you know. Yeah, but I just loved everything about it, and I thought I'm going to remake this beer. So I started cloning that beer for some time, but then after some time I changed the recipes. I started adding my own ingredients. One of my favorite ingredients in making beer is rye. Rye adds a bit of spiciness to the beer, and it's very nice. Yeah.
And when you told me the story about making your debut on the brewing scene with a black IPA, it made me think a bit about one of the areas that I've been working with in my art, which is Marcus Garvey and the Black Star line.
Yeah.
In that, when he made his entry into the shipping industry, the dominant shipping company at the time was the White Star line.
Yeah.
So he named his shipping company the Black Star line.
He had to play with an existing name that people knew. Yeah. It was also I also did something similar because there was a Pursuit of Happiness, the movie.
Yeah.
It was very popular at the time.
Yeah.
And I made a beer called the Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah.
Everyone knew it just by the name. Everyone knew, remember the movie, and everyone was curious to try it.
Yeah.
So it helped me a lot with science.
Cool. And going through your beer library, you've brought a few of your beers here, and I think Pursuit of Happiness is a significant beer that you debuted with.
Yeah.
And then another notable beer of yours is the Sorghum Saison.
Yeah.
And so, can you tell us a bit about why that's significant to create? What is a saison, and why is making a sorghum saison particular? And if you talk to the audience, I'll open one of your beers.
Yeah. So the Sorghum Saison, firstly, saisons are like the Belgian style of beer. Traditionally they would make these beers in winter and capture the wild yeast that's prevalent at the time, and then they make these crisp beers. Many people say those beers were drank by farm workers in summer. They're very crisp and refreshing, and slightly on the tart, have a tart perception on the nose. And some people call them the farmhouse ales. So when I started brewing with sorghum, and I wanted to basically incorporate sorghum into modern brewing and to capture a bit of the essence of Mkombochi, basically.
Mm.
I had made a few beers, they were good, but none of them did capture that until I stumbled upon this particular yeast. I remember I was at another local brewery and the people told me that, yeah, this is almost like Mkombochi because this bacteria is a wild bacteria that they capture someone. So it ferments like the white yeast that we use to ferment Mkombochi. So I started using it and I made this beer. And this beer, when you drink it, if you know Mkombochi, you get the bit of sense of Mkombochi in it. You know, and many people, what fascinated me most is that many people, without me telling them, they will drink it, they're like, wow, this is like Mkombochi. And I'm like, exactly, that's the point. Exactly. So I really loved it. And also our brand being Ukamba Beer Works. Ukamba is a clay pot that traditionally was used for drinking Mkombochi, traditional beer. So it became our flagship beer, basically. And yeah, up to now, yeah.
Well, let's try a little bit of it.
Cheers.
Cheers. It's very dry,
Very dry, super dry. The bacteria of it ferments super dry. I don't know of any other yeast that ferments drier than this. For those that are familiar with brewing terms, it goes to 0.004 on gravity.
On gravity?
Yeah, final gravity. Yeah. So it ferments very, very dry. It leaves almost zero sugar.
So it consumes all the sugar. Yeah.
Yeah, but the ester in the that comes from the yeast gives a bit of sweet perception. You know, if you don't know it, you would think that it's a sweet beer or it leaves like higher gravity. Actually, it doesn't. Yeah.
And this is sorghum itself. Here we have a little bit.
It's sorghum malt, yeah.
Sorghum malt. So you buy it kind of milled.
Yeah.
So there's just like a grain.
Yeah.
So the significance, I mean, one of the significances of this beer then is this combination of a local Southern African beer brewing approach, with a European beer brewing approach.
Yes, basically, it's like a marriage of traditional African brewing with modern European brewing, to create like this beer that's cut across. The idea was basically to try and modernize Mkombochi, but also keep the story, basically preserve the story, because I don't know, for some reason Mkombochi is getting less and less popular with time. I don't know, maybe the upcoming generations will resuscitate it again. Hopefully they do, you know, but if they do, I hope one day they find this beer still existing, and it contributes to reminding them of what basically our ancestors used to drink.
Cheers. And in terms of storytelling, your storytelling focus, I know that in connection with this beer, you had a podcast.
Yeah.
Which the title is something to do with beer, was to do with like talking while you're having a beer, or
it was beer talk. The podcast, the idea was, it was simple. We're just having conversations with people at the bar, and one day I was the friend. I'm like, we had just had such an interesting conversation. I wish all the conversations that people have, just meeting like strangers, can be recorded, and because sometimes we learn like so many like amazing things when we meet amazing people and stuff like that, and they tell their stories about their lives and stuff like that, and some of them need to be shared. So my friend was like, you know, I've got a camera, and you know what, let's start doing this. Let's start recording. So we're like, okay, cool. That's the easy way. We don't know how to podcast. None of us has like a broadcasting background or anything. So what we're gonna do simpler is to just put beyond the table, let's drink, and then someone records, but let's try to keep it as real as possible. So no scripts, almost no scripts. We just have like a brief script, like let's say you're an academic, you want to talk about academia. That's the only thing. then everything else will guide itself. And beer, as like I said, that beer is a social lubricant. It has a way of making way for its own way. So we started that way. Then we started Beer Talk.
Beer Talk, yeah. And through that Beer Talk, you had a particular guest who came on the show.
Yeah.
And that ended up with you taking the Sorghum Saison and using it as an awareness raising and fundraising tool. Would you like to tell us a bit about how that happened?
Yeah, I met these two ladies who are sex workers, and we had a drink and we talked about sex work, and basically their experiences as human beings. And I just wanted to just understand who they are, and basically and we had quite an interesting conversation. They spoke. One of them was talking about the fact that she's a mother. She's raised 4 kids, and alone, without her husband died when these kids were young, and she's raised them alone. And the oldest just graduated in university, and the other one was, I think, training to be like in the fire department. The other one is doing music. The other one is in college as well, and stuff like that. And she's done all these amazing things, and that brought the human side of them to us, to me personally, because like basically everyone else, like most of us, I don't know how the society created like a backroom for these people that we almost don't talk about them. Almost don't talk about them even as human beings and stuff like that. Even when horrible things happen to them, these stories are just there, and the way they are reported, they are so desensitized. Like you find like a headline like a body of an unidentified woman found in the bushes, and that's very desensitizing, because it's just a body of an unidentified woman. It's not like saying Spewe was found dead somewhere. Because if you say Spewe was found dead, Spewe is a human being. There is a feeling about it. There is a pain. There's this empathy that comes with it. So they were also telling about the campaign that we're doing called hashtag Say Her Name.
Say Her Name.
Yeah, Say Her Name. And I felt so touched. I felt compelled to play my part. And the idea that came to my mind that time was like, we want to put these stories of sex workers that have experienced these dehumanizing experiences from other people, from the communities, from their clients. Some fell victim to many situations, and in situations that I strongly believe that could have been avoided if sex work was decriminalized and was openly spoken about. So we put 5 stories on the beer labels of the Sorghum Saison, which we call it Utwala, Sorghum Saison, and we labeled it hashtag Say Her Name, and we sold that beer. And what we wanted basically was the raw reactions, those very raw reactions from someone who comes to a bar and then order a beer, sit down, and then, because everyone's, even when you drink a beer that you've been drinking for 10 years, there's this urge to just look at the label again. We have this thing. So we knew that they would look at the label, they would read the stories, and then we wanted to know how they would react afterwards. So many of them, they wanted to even see these people. You could feel the empathy. Some of them hated it that we put those stories because they feel like these people are sinners or whatever. We have a restaurant in town that literally say they will never sell our beer anymore because we are promoting prostitution, which is against the Bible, which is against whatever that they believe in. We said, glad, so that's exactly what we wanted. We wanted people to come up with their feelings. If that's your feeling, well, that's it. But we still feel strongly about it. If we have to do it, we do it 10 times again. Because these are human beings, these are our sisters. and we have developed some amazing relationships with them up to now. And we all the proceeds that came from that beer we donated to Sweat, which is the Sex Workers Education and Advocacy Task Force.
Yeah,
which is quite a great organization that's helping with awareness and also protecting the rights of sex workers, and also helping them do practices that basically help them with the safety of their health and stuff like that, which is quite a great initiative.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. And it's not the only beer that I think it's one of the most significant, advocacy tools you've made with your beer.
Yeah.
But it's not the only beer which has had a message in the naming of the beer, at least, right?
Yeah.
So you have other beers like Section 25 Lager, for example.
Yeah.
Do you want to say what that's about?
Section 25 was the time that we were launching a lager for the first time, and we wanted a name that's catchy. So we played with politics here and there, every now and then. So it was also the time that there was a whole lot of debate in the parliament about the Section 25 of the Constitution, of land redistribution and stuff like that. So we're like, we're gonna make our beer and we're gonna call it the Section 25, and the tagline was expropriation of lager without conversation. Yeah. So we even made a small ad about it. The scene was like there's a white guy coming, he orders a beer, he sits on the side, there's this black guy sitting on the side, orders a beer, and then a woman comes, she also orders a beer, and then the bartender, instead of giving her another beer, she takes these two beers from these guys, she splits those two beers into three to give that access to the woman.
Yeah.
Basically, what the message was that as much as we were talking about redistribution of land between white people and black people, there's also the other part that always goes missing, which is black women or women in general. They don't get to be part of that ownership in any way. And also for us as a beer company, I think we live in an era where women cannot be prescribed for what they should drink, like back in the day. Back in the day, it was almost like, if you're a woman, when you go to a bar, you're expected to drink a pink drink or white wine, or a cider. But now women can drink anything that they want. And you find that women love beer a lot, and they've got such a good palate. I've sold most complex beers to a first timer. There's always a chance that a first timer who's a female is likely to enjoy a complex beer than a first timer who's made many a time. So they've got the palate, maybe that developed from being the people that developed food for people over years and stuff like that. They have the palate. They've got a very interesting palate. So as a brewer, I want to sell beer to women, but we also wanted to highlight that political part of our lives, basically with that beer.
Yeah, no, that's great. And in fact, your co-founder of Ukamba is your wife,
yes,
who is also a brewer as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's one of the part. Every time people come to the bar, and even when we're sitting together, everyone goes straight to ask me. Goes straight to ask me because I'm the man. Yeah. And they kind of assume that she doesn't know. It's
and she was brewing. Yeah. She was brewing before she met you.
Yeah, she was. Yeah,
you were introduced to each other as brewers.
We met because of beer. We met because she was home brewing when I was also home brewing.
Yeah.
So and things like that, and we started this business together. She's basically the whole steps of building the business. Actually, many of it's her than me, because she was the one who knew most of things. She came from corporate, so she understood a lot of things that I did.
Yeah.
I just was the guy who was so passionate about beer and who was there to make beer and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you in terms of I guess background knowledge and experience, and where Nolu was coming from and where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the really interesting stories you've told me in the past is about learning about flavors and tastes.
Yeah.
And there was a particular person, it was when you were working as a barman in a mobile bar, I guess.
Yeah.
And there was a barman who was excellent at what he did.
Yeah.
And he gave you an introduction to taste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So years back, when I started working in the bars, trying to find myself like in Joburg, I met a guy called Gara. He was working for this mobile bartending company, and he was amazing. And we went to an event together, and I was his barback on the night, and he literally the whole night he got his guests eating out of his palm. And when we were leaving, I asked him, "How do you do that?" So he said to me that there's two types of bartenders. You can either be the one that memorizes the recipes, or the one that knows how to think with his palate. I'm like, "How do you think with your palate?" So he's like, first thing first, you try to put words to your eyes, to your nose, and to your palate. Like basically try and describe every food that you eat in at least 5 words minimum. You know, if you can have as much as possible, but train your mind to do that consistently. That helps you basically connect every time your mind connects with anything. Even when you are reimagining, making something, you know what to mix that aligns, or if you want to create a contrast, you know these two things or these three things will create a contrast. You know, like basically you know that vanilla and chocolate, or chocolate and caramel will align with basically them. But if you want to create a contrast, you may take chocolate and lemon. It will still marry each other, but it will create a contrast. You will have this smoothness and also have this acidity on the side. You know, so basically, but you have to understand your mind has to connect with the words every time before you do that. So I used that for years as a bartender, and when I started brewing, I applied the same thing. I still do up to now.
Yeah, and I remember you told me about how he made a bet with you, that he asked you for what your favorite foods were. He sort of did a sort of like quizzed you on your favorite foods, and then mixed a cocktail for you.
Yeah, he said to me, that time he was paid like 2,000 rand per night. I was paid 400 rand per night. So he says to me, we can make a bet. If I make a drink and it's not the best thing you've ever had, you will take my wages for the week. I take yours for the week. So I'm like, cool, let's do this. So he asked me what's my favorite food. Like I eat pap, a lot of pap, like pap with what? Pap with chicken. Okay, pap with chicken. How do you do your chicken? I boil it slightly, I fry it, browns a little bit, and then put some onions, fry them slightly, and put some tomatoes. And also I don't overcook them, something like that. And just a bit of water, I make a bit of a soup out of that. That's how I eat my chicken. She's like, okay, cool. What's your favorite drink? I'm like, I drink Coke normally, or if it's juice, I drink mango juice, sometimes orange juice. Like, okay, cool. What's your favorite spirits? I drink a few things. I drink rum, dark rum or brandy and stuff like that. So like, okay, cool. What do you have your brandy with? I have my brandy with Coke. Like, cool. Then he comes to me, he's like, okay, these are the words that we're gonna use that are simple. Pulp. Pulp is white. It's white and it's viscous. So is chicken. It's also white and it also has that viscosity. So is onion. The way you do it, you don't overcook it. You want to leave it a bit crunchy, and then you want that viscosity. So that's kind of how your palate enjoys things. Mango juice is also kind of viscous. That's a thing. But orange juice is a bit acidic, and the same acidity you get in Coke. Then you also do your tomatoes, and you put a lot of tomato in your thing. The tomatoes also give you acidity. So you love viscosity and acidity. And then you also love a bit of vanilla, because that's what you get in Coke. You also get a bit of vanilla in what? In rum, You also love a bit of roasting. That's why you fry your chicken and brown it a little bit. That's why you also love your brandy, And Coke also gives you that bit of dark roastiness and things like that. So he took a few things that I mentioned, he mixed them together, rum and whatever, and juices and stuff like that. I shook and gave me a drink. It was the best drink I had ever had in that time. It was amazing. So I admitted, and I got back to my 400 rand, and he went back to his 600, to his 2000 rand.
Yeah.
So it was great, and I'll never forget that.
Yeah, because that taught you this. I mean, I love that idea of thinking with the palate. And building a vocabulary of tastes.
Yes,
that you can select from and almost like classify and group and
exactly. So it's like if we say right now we want to create a beer with let's say African fruits that is sweet and acidic. Like, okay, cool. What can I think of that's sweet and acidic? That's an indigenous fruit. Maybe something like what's called, it's not apple, we call it madamba. In Zimbabwe they call it madamba, or mkemaswan in the Sindebele. And then, it's very juicy, it's very acidic, and it's quite sweet. That's a starting point. Like, okay, cool. How do I get that to think, okay, it's also kind of brown, maybe I'll get a bit of lightly roasted malt, like Munich type 2 or type 1. It will not overpower the thing, but it will maintain the color, So I already have two things that already marry, Then I'll put some other malts to add the sugar. It's gonna ferment, obviously, it's gonna dry down. But for me to retain the sugar, what do I do? Maybe I add lactose sugar, or I ferment it to a certain time, or I use a yeast that only ferments to a certain time, and then I retain the sweetness. So that sweetness pronounces the acidity as well. So you need the sweetness to pronounce the acidity and stuff like that. So that's basically how I will create it in a nutshell. In my mind, I already have a beer that I can do.
That's amazing. And I know that you've also used those skills to teach other people as well how to learn tastes in that way, and how to then turn that into appreciation.
So I do train sometimes restaurant staff now and then, and what I usually do is I try to use the things that they use or that they eat on a daily basis, the things that they understand, and I try to encourage them to use their own vocabulary. Because sometimes you go into a space and then there's this person, they have their own vocabulary, maybe their vocabulary is so advanced for you, then you will never understand because you cannot relate with the words that they use it. But if someone breaks it down to the simplest things, to the simplest words, because every food has taste, every food has texture, every food has aroma, no matter what you eat it. So in everyone, in every language, there's description for that. But unfortunately, we're in a setup where most of these things we use English, and now it's now about how eloquent you are or how good your English is. And if you're limited, your vocabulary is limited, you're already limited, you're almost excluded from that part. And I see that mainly in the wine industry. It's almost there's no words that are local to describe wine. Everything it has to be English to French. So if you do not really understand this, you are out. It's like you're not opulent enough. But you should be able to. You should really be able to enjoy wine in this cup. Or in any language. I wish everyone would be like that. I think we will have more people, a bigger pool consuming these products like craft beer, like wine. If only we could simplify the language. The language barrier is like
and make it accessible without compromising on the complexity.
Yes, we can. We can literally do all that. it can still, it's more like music.
Yes.
Music has never died because someone took like hip hop and sang hip hop in Mississippi.
Yeah.
You know, it's still hip hop. You know, someone does hip hop in French. You know, it's still hip hop. You can do that. You can do jazz in a certain way. You can do jazz with different instruments.
Yeah.
You can do that. You know, we need to simplify food.
Yeah.
I've gone to restaurants where I can't even pick anything in the menu. I have to look and look. I'm like, let me call the waiter. Is anything here that's eaten by people like me and things like that? And then the waiter like, yeah, you can try this. This is like, I went to another restaurant. I remember, I won't mention it. Everything was in Spanish, and it's here in Cape Town.
Yeah.
Spanish and French and what. I couldn't. We couldn't order something, and then the waiter comes like, this one, yeah, you can have this one. What is it exactly? No, it's a ribeye steak. Why? Why do we have to suffer so much? You know, but that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, I think cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah. So, I think in terms of where we are with time, it's time to ask if there's anybody in the audience that has any questions or comments, anything that you'd like to talk to Lethu about. Now is your chance. You can use your little emoji hands. There's Alison. Alison, if you can, do you want to ask verbally, and then that way it goes into the recording more easily than if it's by text. Do I need to ask you to unmute yourself?
Sure.
Oh, there you are. Cool.
Sure. Thanks, Lethu, and thanks, Ralph. I feel like we have a lot of FOMO for us who are not there and watching you drink a beer. So cheers virtually. I guess my question is around your beer making process. And I feel like from what I'm hearing, it's a lot of kind of like artisanal tailoring of the different ingredients and in your process. And so I guess my question is around how has this process changed as you've grown in scale, obviously from being a home brewer to now owning your own brewery?
Thanks for this question. So I always say to people that brewing is two things. It's an art and a science at the same time. So, and there are brewers, there are guys who are like total scientists, and there are guys who are artists. And I think I fall in that category of artists. And in which way you're gonna apply a lot of science. But obviously, I'm much more on the art side, and I keep on learning the science. And I always say that the best brewers are constant learners. You will never be good enough. You know, I think, the day you shall be good enough to learn, that'll be the end of you. I don't think you'll ever make a good beer in your life. You know, so you constantly learn. You have to keep on being curious, wanting to refine your other side, your scientific side of things. You know, and so that's where I am. I've learned a lot when it comes to science. The crazy thing that in school I was never a science student, but now I can speak like microbiology like it's my second language.
Thank you, Lethu.
Thank you.
Yes. Thanks, Alison. I think it's something that's amazing about what I've seen of the beer brewing scene. So, I mean, I helped start a cooperative brewery, but my interest was always more in the social dynamic around and the art and design around doing that. So I've tried brewing, but I'm not very good at it. It involves a lot of cleaning, and it's not my favorite. 90% cleaning. So if you're into cleaning, brewing is good. But what I wanted to highlight is that there's a lot of sharing within the brewing community, a lot of knowledge sharing. So everyone teaches everyone else. And you've also heard so much in what Lethu's described about hybridity or mixing, of like different traditions. Also, the idea with the kind of so-called craft brewing scene is that you don't require loyalty from your customer to only drink your beer. You're expecting people. We want people to be curious.
We want to promote curiosity. I think in a perfect world, we will be having the whole town very curious and the whole town looking out for something different for the next different day or for the next batch of the same beer, because it always will, or it usually comes out different or slightly different, or depending on many things, depending on the ingredients, depending on time, depending on seasons and stuff like that. So that's what it's all about. That curiosity, that eagerness to push the boundaries of flavor. That's what craft beer is all about.
That's great. Thank you. Is there anybody else in the audience here who would like to participate, ask a question or make a comment? Divine is saying his mic isn't working. The production of beer was very gendered, but it appears that craft beer is now gendered or not gendered in a particular way.
Okay. So basically, what it means, production of beer traditionally was much.
Was it women who made beer before?
Yes, a role of women.
And now it's men with beards.
Now it's okay.
Not only.
Yes, it's men with beards. Yeah, because partly the first reason that we scientists discovered that beer tastes better when it's made by someone with a beard. But that was not was a side science.
Side route,
yeah. But yes, when things went commercial, when things start being commercial, then now men wants to control everything. It's always been like that. We still live in a society that's still highly patriarchal. I was brewing with another guy the other day, and we were talking about a particular female brewer in Cape Town. And I was like saying, I like her brewing. She's an amazing brewer. And this guy was like, actually, women make great brewers, but the problem that women don't like cleaning. Like being in that watery environment, cleaning every now and then, scrubbing this, scrubbing this, doing it again and doing it again. I don't know if that's true, but now there's many women coming to the game in South Africa, and they're making great beers. Actually, we have people like Anya van Zel. She's amazing. She's one of the best brewers in the country as far as I'm concerned. We have this lady from this brewery in Rustenburg. We have Apure in Joburg, but we still don't have enough. We still don't have enough. The industry needs more women. Basically, yeah, we need more women to come back to the industry.
And one of the most prominent women is Lucy.
Lucy Kohn, yeah, she's she's a brewer and also a beer writer. She's this person. She's one of the most influential, if not the most influential person in the beer industry right now.
Yeah, in South Africa. Yeah, she's got that an African brewing book.
Yes, yeah. She also writes books. She blogs. She does. So yeah, we starting to have even the CEO of BASA, Beer Association of South Africa, Patricia Pillay. So we're starting to have quite a number of women coming into the industry at different levels. We have another lady owning Beer Lab, which is a business that sells ingredients for beer. So we have quite a few women coming to the game, but I believe we still need more because, like I said, I think women have much more complex palates than like men.
I mean, I think something for me that's interesting with this revival of brewing is because I think both myself and Lethu are not that keen on the term craft beer.
Yeah.
Because when I helped to start this cooperative brewery, it was for craft beer, but I really didn't like the name. I preferred the idea of homebrew or a DIY tradition,
or artisan,
artisan brewing, because for me, what the attraction is of this craft beer scene is that it's about variety, it's about doing it yourself, it's about recovering lost traditions, it's about being creative with what you drink, and it's undermining the monopoly of these enormous corporations that sell you the same type of beer because it's convenient.
And and they because it's easier for them to make it, and then it's commercially viable for them to get people drinking the same thing that tastes the same way every time. You know, like and then they want you to be so loyal to certain brands. You know, they have these gimmicks, you know, that for marketing that make people have to. It's almost like you have to attach yourself to a certain brand. Like it becomes part of your identity. Like you almost become a slave to it. Like, no, I'm so and so. I drink only this beer and whatever. It's almost like the blind loyalty of men when they with football, where like I support Arsenal. You know, even when Arsenal makes you sad the whole year or the whole thing, you don't want to change your team because you one day you say you support this team, that's your team, and stuff like that. We almost do the same thing. We're so brand loyal with beer and sometimes with clothing labels and stuff like that. But there's another world out there where you can be free. You can drink any beer you want to drink because you want to drink it at that time. Because above all, it's your money. You're the one who's buying. So you should be able to choose. You know.
And you can even make your own.
And then you can also make your own. You know, and make it to taste like you want to taste. You want it to taste.
I brought out this bucket from the shed for Lethu as a prop here. This is the classic.
It's a classic home brewing fermenter. So this is how basically Ukamba beer work started. We used to ferment in these buckets. You know, so we make beer in the pots. And so there's this airlock system for making sure that the carbon dioxide comes out of the beer when during fermentation, but nothing goes in the bugs or any other bacteria cannot go inside to spoil your beer. But basically this was our first brewery basically.
And all you need is grain, hops, and yeast.
And water. Grain, hops, and yeast, water, and a lot of cleaning. And that's all you need.
And do you still make beer at home?
I haven't made beer at home in a while. Nowadays, what I do is if I have a crazy idea, I just throw it into the 600-liter system. And I make whatever I make. If it works, it works. I will drink it. If it doesn't, I throw it down the drain and go home and cry, then come back again and try to make. But
Good.
I think I've done it so many times now that I know exactly how to make something. I know how to conceptualize it in my brain and take it from my brain and put it into the tank.
Great. Thank you very much, Lethu.
Thank you. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, that's my pleasure. And I think there's so much that we can learn and apply from the beer brewing experience and from Lethu's experience to all the other kinds of projects and work that we do as well. So thanks everyone. Thanks to the audience, and thanks to Humor for hosting this series. It's called Attire. Next week we have Atakliki Baraki, who is president of the Ethiopian Society of Surgeons, and he's also a painter and a photographer, and he's going to be talking about the combination of arts and medicine. And that's it for today. Really enjoyed today's session. Thanks for joining us.